See, it's quite difficult to compare my life and my times at Main Road with life at the Etihad today. Um, I always talk about it as being planet football because it's a different planet to the planet that I was on when I played. Certainly, the money wasn't there, and the all the trappings that came along with that. Certainly, the intensity of players' lives and the scrutiny of players' lives was far different. My first game was 1975 season, and then when I got the chance to even train with City, it was like, oh, yes, please, just say yes. When the scout asked my father, that was Ted Davis back in the day, and so the idea of playing for your team as a fan, then actually walking on the Halo turf for the first time as a youth team player, then a reserve team player, then a first team player, was just pinch yourself time for me. So it wasn't necessarily about all the trappings, because I was advised by Howard Kendall when I signed a 5-year deal, give me 10 games as captain, and I will make you the highest paid player that City's ever seen, because I have got Arsenal, I have got Liverpool, I have got Manchester United, and I've got Glasgow Rangers all vying for your signature, and I want you to stay with us. So putting it into perspective, it was of a time where that would have been almost groundbreaking, to be honest with you. And then unfortunately after 2.5 games of that 5-year contract, I ruptured my cruciate ligament. So in the scheme of things, it was probably at the pinnacle of what I could have achieved. And yet in comparison to how football and life today is for these players at City, there is no comparison whatsoever, other than the fact that we are playing for the same amazing fans that are so loyal and so trusting of our management, and they get behind us 100%. And you've also got the fact that they wear a sky blue City shirt, which is something that I am very envious of.
It certainly seems as if everyone who's picked up this book of your memoirs so far, certainly I did, certainly everyone I've seen on Twitter has read it cover to cover in 24 hours. And it's one of the things that is amazing about it is that it resonates, I would imagine, for people in very different ways. There's a whole host of memories in there, as you say, happy memories of being in Manchester, and people our age will kind of remember that club scene. Tell us about the club scene, because it we get the images of the Hacienda and so on.
The place to be, the place that you wanted to be, the place that London looked over the shoulder at and Birmingham looked over the shoulder at, was certainly Manchester at that time. And the Manchester scene, as you and I both know, was incredible. And it was just, I mean, even to the extent where I would never go out on a Thursday or a Friday night, but I have been seriously tempted, and it was because of the Hacienda. Nothing else would have attracted me to that, but the Haas was the place to be. I didn't really like the fact that I could get in, and walk to the front and just be allowed in. It wasn't my thing, that, and I'd rather have queued. I mean, my friends in him would drag me forward because they were so cold and didn't want to sort of hang outside. But when you went in there and you all right, the smells were certainly evocative of a certain substance, but I mean, that said, it was just such a cool place to be. And the tunes as you walked in there were just, wow, just blow your mind, and you found yourself dancing almost as you walked through the door. And like we also talk about in the book, is the fact that when you went on certain nights out, you would get accosted by guys who were City fans, or they were United fans or Ever fans, and start to give you some stick. Especially if their girlfriends were showing an interest because you were a footballer. That didn't help quite often, whereas in the Hacienda, it didn't make a difference. You'd get a wink or a nod, and that would be it, you'd be left alone. And that's how I loved it. I wasn't rude, I wasn't ignorant towards fans, but I wanted to have my own time and to chill out, and that was the ultimate place to do it. At that point in the book, where we're talking about the music and about the Hacienda and about the way I'm playing at the time, and obviously I've been linked with the England World Cup squad, I was probably at my happiest and most settled time. I was playing well. I'd played in different positions. I was comfortable. I was confident. I'd adapted to different situations, different managers, and coped with that fine. And I was really enjoying my football. And it was at that time when I just missed out on the World Cup squad, and with a phone call from Sir Bobby saying that he had me in mind as a future England captain, which was, the phone call, I'll never forget it. I just walked out of the room 10 foot tall, and then I'd probably go to the corner shop, and I didn't know who to speak to about it, because they wouldn't believe who I'd just spoken to and what had just been said. It was like, did that really happen to me? Can I go and relive that moment again? It was really nice, And then of course Howard offered me the 5-year contract and had the conversation about making me the highest paid player ever at City. And there was never any question of me signing for anybody else. I knew there was interest of other big clubs, and that was flattering. But there was only one place for me to be, and I'd always yearned for the opportunity to, after seeing the scroll in the old blue room at City where you saw the list of players that played for the country, and seeing how fantastically Colin Bell's name stood out of all, I wanted to try and emulate him or even surpass him as being the most capped player for England. And then all of a sudden, 2.5 games later, all those expectations, those hopes, those dreams started to dissipate.
What was going through your mind at that point?
It was a bit of a strange night, really, because it was a midweek game against Aston Villa, and I'd been told by Howard Kendall that the England manager, was Graham Taylor, then was in the stadium looking at both myself and David Platt. The pitch was in a bit of a state. It was sort of holding water towards the width of, in the sort of Platt line in particular, the half that we defended in the first half.
A torrential downpour in the half hour before kick-off has changed the character of a pitch still recovering from 5 major summer rock concerts.
And so as the ball was holding up, that certainly helped Villa. And they had a strong side at the time, with Tony Daly was on fire, Cascarino up front was always a handful, and of course David Platt playing, and Gordon Cowans, some great players. So it was a real challenge for us. And I can recall that, I mentioned in pre-season that I thought I was going to get dropped, and that Reddo, who was a seasoned centre-half, and Colin Hendry were going to be picked me as in starting lineup. And then, of course, I got told that not only was I going to be playing instead of Steve, I was going to be made captain. So playing for my first sort of home game as captain was a really exciting time, So we played against, and that was against Everton. So the second one, I was like, okay, wow, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling strong, I'm feeling happy, and I was playing particularly well in the game. And Colin and I had forged a quite strong relationship on the pitch, and knew each other's games, when to attack, when to drop off, when to go tight, who to pick up. We string each other along by sort of saying, like, there's a guy on your shoulder, watch him, follow your man, stay with him, I've got him. Loads of communication, good communication, passing it on to fullbacks, and getting that real sense of togetherness and really enjoying it. So the game had gone well in the first half, and okay, it was 0-0, but we had the upper hand and we were playing well. And then, of course, second half, we just got a penalty and stuck it away, and it was 1-0.
It'll be Mark Ward. 1-0.
And never forget it, really, because it was the strangest of situations. I just watched Tony Cascarino control it, and the ball popped off his chest into the air, and I managed to poke it away from him to Mark Brandon, who was facing me. And I just landed to try and follow the play, and my foot fixed and rotated, and I felt a thud, a deep thud, a really initial sharp pain, and I went down. And then after about a minute or so, the pain started slowly going away. And when you look at the actual footage of it on YouTube or whatever, and you listen to Clive Tilsley talking, it's uncanny that he actually said that the most innocuous of challenges can often be the worst, and how true that was.
Sometimes the most innocuous incidents in football are the most damaging.
Unfortunately for me, I left the pitch and was carried off, placed onto the treatment table in the physio room on my own, bag of ice on, left there, and then Roy Bailey had to come back onto the pitch and be pitch side as the first team physio. Nobody else was there. So I was sat there with this aching knee, beginning to swell up, with an ice pack on my leg, listening to the crowd, listening to the roar, listening to the roar when Neil Poynton scored, and all the time thinking, how bad is this? Because I'd had injuries in the past, little knocks and kicks, but I was sat there watching this knee joint inflame in front of my eyes, and I just thought, this is quite serious. And I was kind of then left to the consultants and his physio and the club doctors words to say, look, this looks like it isn't that serious. You've had an X-ray and everything's fine. You'll be back in 6 weeks. Seem to be back on track. Not too painful. Some weird feelings now and again, but been advised that's what you're going to expect. So again, led by medical people to say what I should expect, and therefore you just carry on with it. It's my job. Then of course the first day that I went onto the pitches, rotated twice, fell in a heap twice and was back to hospital. Looking back to see that sliding doors moment of 1 minute being on top of the world and the next minute having your face in the mud in Wythenshawe was it was quite a hard come down, really.